Blockchain Show is a podcast that demystifies cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger technology.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to the Blockchain Show. You're listening to episode number 162. I'm your host, Ethan Kinderknecht. Today, we've got Michelle Chuang, the COO of Asensys. It's a new generation high-performance system that brings throughput and capacity to a new scalable level. Well, welcome to the Blockchain Show. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
Very good. So scalability being a common theme throughout this podcast. We have different ways that people have gone about it, but I'm interested to hear how your company goes about it. But before we get too into it, would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved?
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to starting at Asensys, I invested about 20 years of my career in sales and marketing. Throughout the marketing progress and development, especially in the last 2 decades, as I witnessed, particularly in customer experience, as well as how companies and enterprises are talking and communicating to their constituents, to their audiences, the topic of machine learning and artificial intelligence comes in, particularly in the areas of personalizing their messages and identifying consumers. So that was kind of my peek into this emerging technology field. And then the more I learned about personalization as it pertains to sales and marketing, the more I realized that the gap between within artificial intelligence and then also machine learning is, when you think about that, is massive volume of data being exchanged and being collected. There are ways to potentially protect consumers and customers around those data exchange. You can do it by regulation, as you've heard of, like GDPR, and then also CCPA that was recently implemented in California. But looking into solving and connecting that gap of a potential data vulnerability at its core, and that is where blockchain technology comes in, very promising as a emerging technology to work hand in hand, and especially now that artificial intelligence is being so widely adopted and utilized, especially in the Internet of Things age. So when we started to look into blockchain, the very reason that blockchain is very promising is that it offers security. And the reason it offers security is because not any enterprise owns the data. So for example, when people are on Facebook, currently all of the information that's being exchanged on the Facebook platform, Facebook holds. Now, in the decentralized platform, it offers more of that security because within a blockchain arena, then all of the information and all of the data is being decentralized, therefore make it even more secure. Now, so while all of that sounds great and sounds very exciting for our future, the scalability comes in. And then that's why your audience probably have heard of the terms, the blockchain trilemma, as coined by the founder of Ethereum. And the trilemma basically explains the fact that within a blockchain technology, to achieve security through a decentralized state, and then also the possibility of scalability is not able to. It is the core issue of achieving scalability as being part of this trilemma. And so our founder, Dr. Brendan Wang, who was a lead researcher over at Microsoft studying computer imaging and then also distributed system. So he took an approach and he spent years looking into solving, the core, the reason of this trilemma. So instead of creating technology to fix on top of the blockchain platform to fix the trilemma, he chose to get back into his roots of research and understanding the core of the issue of trilemma, and through the technology of distributed systems. So what he created as part of this the consensus platform is that it's through an approach called what we call a synchronous consensus zone. So you take the core of the core issue of scalability, but instead you create not just one. You instantaneously you create amplify the throughput and then also the capacity of it. It's one of the analogy I love to give is if you're doing some grocery shopping and more the reason as people are currently witnessing in the grocery store right now, not only you have to be 6 feet apart, but there's a long line and there's only one checkout stand, and that is the current issue with scalability right now. So you have only one checkout stand, but through Asensys' Asynchronous Consensus Zone, then immediately it's almost as if the grocery store opened up 10 different checkout stands. So all of a sudden, then people and the consumers can actually get through their checkout stand, making it the throughput and then also enlarging the capacity, and every process can get through more efficiently. And in addition to the asynchronous consensus zone, we also implemented Chogunyu mining, where every single time that is being computed, that it does not lose the security nor the data integrity behind it. So ultimately, that would be the core solution to achieving scalability from Asensys.
Very good, very good. I think that's a good analogy about opening up another checkout stand. Especially today with everything that's going on in the world. But I'm curious, maybe a little bit more on the technical side. How is it that you are able to, address these issues through the technology?
The technology, as I mentioned, is about creating the throughput. First of all, creating the capacity and then also the throughput. It is taking something that was originally inefficient or calculating one at a time to creating more solution and applying that solution. It exponentially creates the power and then also the efficiency of that computation. So rather than enabling the machine to become more efficient, we are providing more solution to the problem within it.
Awesome. Earlier, you spoke a little bit about machine learning and AI. First of all, what role does it play with Asensys, and how do you think that AI and blockchain are going to work together or at all in the future?
That's a great question, Ethan. So previously, when I shared about my background, and artificial intelligence is the topic and the subject that really sparked my interest because of my passion being in customer experience and being a core part of that experience is personalization. At the same time, our business and enterprises, the way that we do business today is reliant on the development of machine learning and artificial intelligence, because it will help make process of enterprise and connection even more efficient. What is the trade-off behind that efficiency right now is the potential of data breach. And data breach is the reason that is because it's not decentralized, because there's a middleman in between. And particularly, I think when we're looking at the future of it and applying to the environment we're currently faced today, the pandemic of coronavirus, because of social distancing. So let's for example, instead of you and I meeting at a local cafe and having that exchange where there's no middleman involved, today we are having to build our connection on a video conference. And now the information that's being exchanged is being conducted through a middleman. And there's the data in between that, because we're reliant on this platform, on the tool, on the Internet of Things, that our data has a potential of being compromised. And I think the blockchain technology is no longer a nice to have, but a must have or a need to have. So it become a accelerated tool that will make sure that all of the information exchange and the connection is being made secure, is being made decentralized, and then most importantly, through the Asensys approach, that it will be able to achieve scalability, so be able to accomplish and provide that state at a greater scale. And we do believe that we will be able to achieve that only because there are, in the last years or few years, there's been several teams, several companies that have shared that they have to solve the scalability issue. However, we've not been able to see in the industry, we've not really been able to see any approach that has been vetted like the one that we have, since because we share the Asynchronous Consensus Zone approach at a recent NSDI symposium that our peers in computer science from Stanford, from Carnegie Mellon, Berkeley have also agreed and accepted the presentation that we had shared on how we can achieve scalability in this on the blockchain platform.
Wow. Yeah, I'm always curious what academia, how the blockchain is being portrayed or discussed to the new generation of developers and coders, and still kind of waiting on a class to graduate. But we've had a few guests on who have since gone back to their universities and evangelized, maybe is the right term. So what's the culture like there? How was that received?
It was very well received, actually, because, like I said, there has been a few companies or teams in computer science field that have shared that they're set out or they have achieved scalability, but the approach have always been, some teams will accept or acknowledge the approach because that is the discipline of computation that they have learned in their past. I think overall, because specifically in the field of academia, that we felt most confident with a synchronous consensus zone, with Asensys' approach, because that it was widely acknowledged as understanding that this is an approach that not only will be able to solve for the scalability issue, but also without compromising any area of decentralization or security. And that's not widely seen in the field of blockchain scalability. Company that are trying to look to solve for that.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't think scramble is the right term, but I think there's a definite need to address these issues. I mean, we're seeing a lot of uptick in, just Zoom meetings, for instance. A lot of, like, my daughters are doing their schoolwork on Zoom. You mentioned a lot of businesses are conducting business remotely over Zoom and kind of similar type of programs. The ability for hackers and, malicious actors to tap into that, like you mentioned earlier, it's kind of unprecedented. This would be the time to try to listen in. And I'm just curious, do you think that eventually we're going to have like a kind of a decentralized video chat app, or is that even attainable anytime soon?
That's a great question, Ethan. I think for someone like me, not just based on my role at Asensys, but also my passion for creating a Web 3.0, as we would call it, because this is the future. This is the future state of internet. It has to be decentralized. Previously, I mentioned there are alternative ways to protect data integrity. I mean, to protect the data security outside of blockchain. However, such as through government regulation, EU implemented GDPR a few years ago. CCPA in California is very stringent and then also implemented widely. But those are areas where I see that through regulation, government is trying to play its role to protect the community, protect the constituents. However, it's not fixing the problem in its core. I think that aligns with the culture that we're in, and also the goal that we're trying to achieve at Asensys. The approach of a synchronous consensus zone is because we're fixing the issue at its core. Without fixing that issue at its core, your daughter's Zoom lesson, our podcasts right now, or any of the communication that any enterprise is looking into developing for their future and innovation, all of those are in a vulnerable state that is potentially open to data breach in the future. So I think right now, what is most important and then also most promising that blockchain technology could potentially bring to that is the level of security that will be able to serve all of the use cases as we discussed. So I do feel very confident and then also optimistic the fact that it will be accelerated. And given the fact that we are in the state that we are in right now with COVID-19, and people are having to rely on those tools, and therefore the possibility of data breach or the importance, the necessity around protecting data and the exchange of data will certainly be more top of mind, if not be acted upon. Versus, I think prior to the pandemic, it was more so a research, as well as we know that that's the future of it. But I certainly think that future is now being accelerated.
I love that. And I think that this is a time where people are kind of reevaluating how we go about life. Maybe when this calms down, I'm not sure if things will go back to normal, but there may be, kind of a new normal where we reevaluate how we interact with each other. And, even though, person to person, face to face is very positive and important biologically, there may be more efficient new ways to conduct business. And I think that the blockchain industry is kind of, that's been the modus operandi since the beginning. I mean, I know that your team is global, is it not?
Yes.
So yeah, you guys have, you've got skin in the game there. And I like what you said earlier about the user's experience. I know that you have many years experience with Starbucks and Staples, Chevron, those kind of big names, and user experience or design is something that is kind of lacking, or has been in the last few years. It's starting to come around, but I'm just thinking about like the Starbucks app for some reason. I used to really enjoy that, getting the stars, and then I wanted to get a free coffee, and it was kind of like gamifying something that I already liked, and whoever was behind that was onto something there. But at the end of the day, I had to store all my information, like my card, my credit card, that sort of thing, my favorite spots to go. A lot of times I didn't really think about it. I didn't care. I just wanted to get that free reward. But then, last year I kept getting all these emails about, different leaks, different, credit reporting bureaus. All your information has been compromised. And it made me start to kind of pull back from using some of these services, because I was thinking, well, I shouldn't be so carefree, because, it's not like somebody's going to take my information and tell me. They're going to have to be forced by a government. And you spoke about California having these protections, which are hopefully going to be instituted countrywide. It would make sense. What are some of the kind of the takeaways from the Web 2.0 way of interacting with customers, interacting with companies, interfaces, to how is that going to transition into Web 3.0, if that makes any sense?
Excellent question, Ethan. The example you bring up from Starbucks is one that I'm personally very proud of, being an alum of that great organization, but also you're absolutely right. Your experience so first of all, I wanted to speak to the user experience part of it. What I see will make blockchain technology successful is the ability for all of the blockchain technology company to work together. We are in a environment or a situation right now that everyone needs to work even closer together. Immediately, I think the global community needs to work hand in hand in finding a solution for this pandemic. It's not just about every field. Healthcare frontline workers are doing their best. I think so should the rest of us, being whether we're enthusiasts in technology or we are we live and breathe this every day, and doing our part is very important, and working hand in hand together and finding a plausible solution for that. And that solution, from a user experience standpoint, is so that we are applying our solution to solving for the possibility of of a really big issue right now, which is data breach, data exchange, ensuring that our users are confident. How it folds into the Web 2.0, into the Web 3.0 is that decentralized internet. As more and more people, more than half of the human population right now are currently on the internet. Every single day, our life to smart coffee maker that knows when I wake up how much of a coffee my taste in coffee, to your experience with the Starbucks app, saving your financial information on there, as well as they know what products you like, what time you walk in. Like they are familiar. They're probably more familiar with their users' daily behavior than some of their spouses. As when you think about that. So, and all of those data are important. And one thing that we need to acknowledge is those data exchange enhances human lives, and it makes us better, it makes us smarter, it makes us more efficient. But there's a price to pay behind that. But we believe at Asensys, we really believe that that's not a price that the user should be paying. That's not anything that, the user, in fact, the user should be able to hold on to the data and say how I use it. And that's really important to us. And that's where I think in order to push the internet age forward rather than backward is to ensure that peace of mind is provided to the users. And that's where the power of Asensys gets unleashed and be able to provide that level of confidence, that peace of mind for its users. Because and it's not just about the users, it's also the enterprise, because enterprises are being held accountable when their system is breached, when their system does get hacked, when their data releases, then that enterprise is held accountable. And when they are held accountable, it could very well not just disrupt their business, but also potentially, bring their business down. So there's a lot at stake here. If we are to transform Web 2.0 into 3.0, security is certainly one that we need to achieve.
Yes, very well said. Very well said. This has been a really good talk so far. I think that you bring up a lot of good points. I don't want to lose sight of how this technology and everything that we use, I think it all comes from a good place, like you said, to make our lives better. And there's a lot of, positive takeaways. And maybe I've gotten a little too focused on the negatives lately. But, that was kind of one of the reasons I got so into blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies, is I saw the whole idea of like a self-sovereign identity, still being able to interact with these programs and technology that we love, but in a more harmonious way, so that we can still give that data, still have it monetized, but maybe have it be more symbiotic as opposed to just being this huge value in the background that we're not even aware of. Like I never thought that using services like Google and Facebook, like I never thought that I was the product. I always thought like, oh, I'm getting all this free stuff. This is great. But in reality, they just kind of figured out this is like a gold mine of data that we can sell and monetize. And with it happening in the background, a lot of times people don't really think about it until it comes out. Like you said, when a lot of these big companies are forced to, whether through legal means or whatever, maybe political pressure. I do think that there's like a moral, not obligation, but we're living in an age where as a country, we're complying with guidelines to keep each other safe. Like you mentioned the 6 foot.
That's why previously I had said, COVID-19 is a fight of the global community. What we need to do together is finding a solution, not just for COVID-19, but also welcoming that new normal of the world. Previously, you talked about when we go back to normal, or if there is that new normal. I really do believe that there's going to be a new normal, and data is a good thing. Data is what is going to make our technology develop and evolve faster, better. But there's always a price to pay with evolution. Ensuring that we're utilizing technology to remove the risk behind that is very important, and is our responsibility as technologists. in the field to providing a secure Web 3.0 for people. One of the things that is super interesting. So when you think about the Fitbit or our Apple Watch right now, that measures our temperature, which is very relevant in current state of the pandemic. All of that data is being provided. So at any given day, they know your body temperature, they know your health, they know where you have gone to. So the ability to be able to track that, control that. They know your path of commute. They understand what media you have been on. So all of those things, how it sounds, the level of information that's being collected and then also being utilized could be used for good in solving for a situation like the COVID-19. Utilizing that to accelerate testing, to ensuring social distancing, ensuring lockdown. There's just an article this morning about New Zealand that they have very quickly contained that their pandemic spread, and it's through the very reason of active testing and also social distancing. The volume of data that I previously shared, through your Apple Watch, through your Google search results, through your path of commute, those are all information that could be used for very good in containing a pandemic such as this. Imagine the possibility of utilizing all of those data for good, eliminating or preventing another pandemic from spreading in the future. I think that is the very important thing that we want to focus on to ensuring that there's not another COVID-19 pandemic in the future.
Yes. Yeah. One of my favorite Reddit subreddits is Data is Beautiful. And they have all these things you would never think about, graphs and drawing these connections just from everyday things like people's cell phones. Like one that was really interesting was showing cell phone data from spring breakers in Florida and how after the start of COVID-19, it just showed on a map where everybody went after spring break. And it was mind-blowing just how quickly it spread across the country. But
yes.
Yeah, I really like what you said there. I think that's important. But there was something that has been brought up a little bit that I was hoping you could maybe explain to me a little bit more. Asynchronous Consensus Zones. And I'm curious how that would affect someone like me, if that's a part of the product that I would use, or is it just something that's in the background running?
Both. So Asynchronous Consensus Zone would serve the DApp community and so developers that are looking into building their transaction on the Asensys platform. We will also be able to positively impact your life if you are a user of a enterprise of such as social media network, financial exchange, financial institution exchange. So there's two components of it. There's an app developer community and then as well as the enterprise. So on both ends, Asensys will be able to serve both. And we are actually going to be launching our testnet in the summer timeframe. Although with COVID-19, that schedule hasn't impacted us. So we are working feverishly on developing and coming up with our testnet. And we do invite all the developers to join us come summertime to experience Asensys and then the power behind scalability.
Very good. And something that I was thinking about when you were talking was, the original vision for Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper, it's been over 10 years, a cashless peer-to-peer way to send money across the internet. And I'm curious if you have any thoughts about how the future decentralized internet is going to look compared to that original vision that kind of started this whole movement, kind of 10 years later. Where are we at and where do you think we're going?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think Satoshi's white paper really stimulated or, and embarked us on this journey of blockchain technology and then also all of the good that could, and should come out of the promises of this technology. What I think specifically is it has evolved, just like any technological innovation. Blockchain technology has certainly evolved since that white paper, since Satoshi's viewpoint, and is that has turned something from just a simple payment, financial exchange, Bitcoin, into the greater power of achieving security and presenting the possibility of a Web 3.0. So I think that is a very notable thing to acknowledge, on the fact that something that started with payment has evolved into everything that half of the human population is currently utilizing and will be using more and more of. So I think that also reflects the potential of blockchain technology. If the evolution have already shown itself in the last decade of going from Satoshi's white paper into what blockchain technology is able to achieve today, and working hand in hand with artificial intelligence, the possibility of this technology is enormous. And so I think that is also a reflection around, this is the right time to be involved in blockchain technology, because it's about to come, it's going to become the backbone and that infrastructure of Web 3.0.
Yeah, that's very well said. Hopefully, people will start to embrace this technology more. I've been, I've gone through phases of thinking maybe people don't care about decentralization, to maybe people they don't know they need it yet. And then, this pandemic hits, and I realize, well, a lot of people just, they know what they know, and sometimes it's just not in their periphery yet. What are your efforts to kind of bring this to the masses? I mean, other than the great technology that you're working on, do you have any plans to try to, I don't know, maybe just influence people's psychology, or is it just, or is it like, how do you convince the masses that they need to adopt this technology, or is it more of a gradual thing?
So that's such a great question, Ethan. I think aside from known approaches, being able to build awareness around the power of Asensys is top of mind. And forming alliances with with Blockchain Show, ensuring that we get our message out there is critical to us. But at the same time, it's also creating and drawing relevance to them. Like previously, you talked about your experience with the Starbucks app, and you expressed your excitement and enthusiasm around how convenient it's gotten, right? You scan at the cash register, you're in and out just like that. They send you coupons, discounts. They're even, grateful for your business, so they send you something on your birthday. But in reality, all of those are data that is being provided, and that's creating a very intimate relationship with you personally. So that's the relevance that I'm sharing right now, drawing the relevance to the users, who in enabling that they understand, how does blockchain technology influence their life, and how will blockchain technology, how will Asensys provide benefits to their life. When previously you mentioned about video conferencing your daughter, and as kids are now learning remotely and through all of this exchange, can you imagine our future state of a enterprise understanding what kids are into today? For example, they are choosing, the color green versus the color red. So then all of a sudden, next month when you walk into a grocery store, there's a lot of packaging now is being, served with a certain color. I mean, those are sort of more mass, generalized assumptions there, but everything is tied together. And all of those data exchange is relevant to everyone. So from someone who is a first grader to someone who is, is facing retirement. And all of those data then feeds into decision-making and at a enterprise, at a certain, community level, and all of that, and ensuring that a sense is that we're drawing relevance to our users, to the community, in in sharing with them on the positive impact that Asensys will be able to provide in achieving scalability that will then provide security through the decentralized state, that their data exchange will be secured so that they can operate with a peace of mind.
That is so good to hear that. I think that, it's just been a really good talk so far. I really appreciate your perspective and being able to just kind of relate to the current situation in the world, and also, the focus of this podcast. So, I really appreciate it. And I know that you mentioned earlier that later this year there'll be the testnet, or was it the mainnet launch?
The testnet. We will be launching the testnet in summer, in a few months.
Awesome. So how does it look for anybody that would like to get involved, or maybe wants to learn more? How would they participate?
Yeah, please, we would encourage any users or any developers who are interested in experiencing our testnet, or just to simply, stay connected and see, how this journey evolves in the next few months. They can log on to our website, www.asensys.com, and then just simply connect with us, and then we will be getting in touch with you, hopefully very soon, with more of our testnet information.
Awesome. Well, Michelle, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ethan.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of The Blockchain Show. Thank you to Michelle for joining me today. Hope you all are staying safe out there, and we'll see you back here in a few short days with another episode. Feel free to search our website, theblockchainshow.com, for older episodes. There's a way to connect to us there. Also, you can check out our Facebook page, Twitter, minds.com, and I look forward to speaking with you later this week here on The Blockchain Show. Goodbye.